or what did God speak to my heart, or what happened within the last year, or what happened in my life that I can bring as an analogy to what's happening in your life. But that's what a personal testimony is. It isn't sharing the whole thing. It's giving tidbits of your life so that it can help them on their journey. A is action. Acts of kindness, servant evangelism, conversational evangelism. Again, Brian McLaren in A New Kind of Christian said we should be more interested in conversations than we are with conversions. And so often I think we're, okay, how many did we get saved? How many conversions do we have? How many of this? Well, how many did we help along their journey is a better question to ask. Acts of kindness are great. Young adults are much more likely to share their faith through ongoing discussions with friends and through email and instant message conversations than are middle-aged and older adults. Barna explained they are less likely to engage in means that their generation finds offensive, such as street preaching or moral confrontation. The early signs suggest that the emerging culture, the Mosaics, who presently are in their early 20s and actually more like late 20s right now, down through their early childhood, will continue along this vein. Ministries seeking to prepare people to effectively share their faith in today's society would advance the process by enabling young adults to carry on knowledgeable conversations about the substance of the Christian faith and how it affects all dimensions of a person's life. The ability to relate biblical principles to current issues and personal struggles, that is, to interact with beyond the level of simply getting saved, will be crucial for the future of effective outreach efforts. That's what Barna says. Actions. Our actions speak louder than our words. Proverbs 11:30 says, "Live right, and you will eat from the life-giving tree, and if you act wisely, others will follow." Actions, 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 actions. Again, 1 John 3:18. Dear children, do not love with word or tongue, but with action and in truth. Let our actions speak. Look for opportunities to act. Colossians 4:5 says, make the most of every opportunity. Galatians 6:10 says, therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people. In other words, so what is opportunity? You know, oftentimes I have people come up to me and say, well, God didn't tell me to do anything. And I usually say, are you breathing? You see, opportunity is, do you still have breath in your lungs? As long as you have breath in your lungs, that's an opportunity. So do good to all people. So what is do? How do we live that out? What does the action step look like? Well, if you read in Galatians chapter 5, 22 and 23, be loving, be a person of peace, have self-control, be faithful, joyful, kind, gentle, be good. The fruit of the Spirit, those should be natural things coming out of you. So if in the morning, if you have to wake up and go, okay, I'm going to be a loving person, I'm going to be a loving person, then guess what? You need to check the heart, because these things should be naturally flowing out of a person of Christ, a Christ-like person, a Christian. These should be naturally. So when we look at one another as Christians, when I keep saying our actions speak louder than words, people should see love in us, peace in us, joy in us, kindness, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control. All those things should be naturally flowing out of us. And as they naturally flow out of us, they should be wanting what we have, because those are the things that people are desperate for. Colossians 4:5 says, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. The greatest action step for this generation is caring through relationship. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Again, let me say that. The action of caring. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think, as we get older in life, we want to just spew knowledge, but the truth of the matter is they want to know how much we care. It doesn't matter how old they are. In the presentation of the gospel as we live out our lives, it doesn't matter about how old they are. It matters how much they see you caring for them. Needs. Matthew 25:35, another great witnessing verse in Scripture. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Scripture goes on to say, it's the separation of the sheep and the goats. As you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. In other words, as we meet people's needs, we are blessing God, but we are also a great witness. We are a great witness of who Christ is, because we're living out His actions, His life to others. We are the perfect image of Jesus. He takes His light, shines it through us as a prism, and it becomes this brilliant beauty of Him if we're living it right. The reason people reject is because we're bringing a very hard hard message that says, live this way now or get out. And the truth of the matter is that as we approach it in love, we say, hey, I'll walk this journey with you as God did with Adam and Eve and walked in the early evening. That was what God totally intended for our relationship to be with others and His to be with us, is that we would walk in the cool of the evening and discuss things. That's the type of image He gave us. That's the image we should be portraying to the world we live in. Walking this journey and meeting needs. Testimony and team up, the T. Write and memorize your personal testimony. It's very important. Be prepared to springboard every conversation to a part of your testimony. Use transitional statements to get to your testimony. Do you go to church anywhere? Anything you can to bring out a conversation with your personal testimony, and then team up. I want us to reflect just for a moment that Jesus, when He took the 72, He sent them out 2 by 2. Oftentimes I think that we send out sheep as to the slaughter. We need to have good Christian friends as we are living out our testimony every day. We need to be walking the hallways with those Christian friends as young men and young women, teenagers, as we walk the halls. We need to have somebody that we can depend upon, somebody that's got our back. You know? So broaden your friendship's opinion of Christians by enlarging their friend base. So introduce your unbelieving, your friends that don't know Christ at this point by introducing them to other Christians. Get them to places where they see other Christians all the time. The next one is so simple, and yet so often we overlook this area of invitation. The Philip and Nathanael story is one of the most amazing stories found in Scripture. And as we look at it, the Scripture tells us that God fully intended for us to invite people to come to know Him. And the problem is that we don't see this as a valued portion of witnessing. The truth of the matter is right in Scripture, in John chapter 1, verses 43 through 49, it's one of the greatest stories of a conversion that ever happened in all of Scripture. And I want to read that to you if you'll allow me to. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, He said to him, "Follow me." Philip, like Andrew, said Peter was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." "Nazareth? Can anything good come from there?" Nathanael asked. "Come and see." In other words, "Come check it out," said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, He said to him, "Here is a true Israelite, in whom there is nothing false." "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip came to you." Then Nathanael declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." You know, invitation is one of the most overlooked areas of witnessing. And yet, Peter invited Cornelius. Then Cornelius invited Peter. Paul to King Agrippa in Acts chapter 26, "I'm sending you off to open the eyes of the outsiders so they can see the difference between dark and light and choose light." See the difference between Satan and God and choose God. "I'm sending you off to present my offer of sins forgiven and a place in the family, inviting them into the company of those who begin real living by believing in me." And a little later on in that chapter, King Agrippa says, "Almost thou persuadest me to become a Christian." The unfortunate side is oftentimes we in the church would again say, "Well, you failed. He didn't get saved." But why would God put that scripture in there if Paul was not successful? You see, oftentimes our teenagers will invite friends to come to church, and if you're a youth leader or a youth pastor, I want you to begin putting this into practice. When a teenager walks in and says, "I invited so-and-so to come to youth group tonight, but they didn't," I want you to go gunny bags over that. I want you to compliment them for a great job of inviting and being a great witness, because it's going to change their philosophy of what witnessing looks like. You see, just because the person didn't come doesn't make them a bad witness. They were faithful with asking their friend to come. So in other words, again, God draws men to Himself. So our job is to put the invitation out there. So yes, Philip is a great witness, but so is Paul here, even though Agrippa didn't get saved. You know, we need to realize that God has put it into us to invite, and we as youth leaders need to elevate what witnessing looks like so that they understand they